This is a special presentation from News 19.
I think this is definitely, one of the most important missions out here. It's long-term building of their country and building up their army so they can support themselves. So I'm pretty happy and pretty proud to be part of it.
I couldn't be doing what I'm doing without my family support.
It's been a rewarding mission. Like it says, we know we still have a long way to go.
I do miss all my friends back home. You can't lie about that.
There are no weekends here. I mean, you're pretty much working until you're done.
You have every reason in the world to be proud of your soldiers. They are changing the face of Afghanistan.
Life in a war zone. Stories from the 218th.
We see them at the gas station, the grocery store, and the high school football game. They're our friends, neighbors, and family, but today, many of us think of them as a lot more than that. We see them as heroes. They're the men and women of South Carolina's 218th Brigade Combat Team. A year ago, thousands gathered here at Williams-Brice Stadium to say goodbye as these men and women left for their tour of duty in Afghanistan. Here at home, we can only imagine what their lives must be like. But now you're about to see what life is like on the other side of the world, at Camp Phoenix in Kabul, Afghanistan, where so many of these men and women are stationed. From the sunrise and 6 a.m. wake-up routine to the dining hall, the missions, even the gospel choir rehearsal, you'll get a true feel for what life is like in Afghanistan. These are the stories of the people we know and love who are living in a war zone. These are stories from the 218th.
I've been to every corps in this country, and I can say by far that this is perhaps the better place to be if you had to choose one out of any place here.
The soldiers are doing very well from South Carolina. They're very well trained. Quite frankly, they've been in some fairly difficult positions, and we're expecting a lot of them, but their training and their equipment is showing every day. You have every reason in the world to be proud of your soldiers. They are changing the face of Afghanistan.
As far as places go, this is relatively safe, but at the same time, we are in a hostile environment, and that is always in the back of your mind. That's something you have to be aware of, and you have to be alert.
It's an experience of a lifetime. And yeah, there is danger here, but there's also danger in our nation's capital. So, you just rationalize it like that.
For every soldier, airman, sailor, and Marine, there's a different way of looking at it. Most of them will tell you life is pretty good at Camp Phoenix. There's room to roam, the food and living conditions are good, and most importantly, their safety is rarely in jeopardy. But all of that can't erase the fact that this is war, and they are living in it. Captain Stanley Myers of Columbia perhaps said it best, talking about what life is like at Phoenix.
You're still in the combat zone, and you always know that right outside these wires exists trouble. I don't think I've ever really fully relaxed since I've been here.
Even the trip into country can be dangerous, or at the least, completely draining. A couple of days after Thanksgiving, Lieutenant Colonel Zeb Williams of Columbia began his return to Afghanistan, starting in Atlanta.
I'm Lieutenant Colonel Zeb Williams, and I'm escorting.
He had been home on 2 weeks' leave with his wife and kids, something he was looking forward to since day one at Camp Phoenix.
We didn't try to push it too hard. I found the first day or two home, just really had to readjust to the rhythm of being home, and life, moves at a different speed in the United States than it does in Afghanistan. Just driving, you're aware of how close other vehicles are. In Afghanistan, you're constantly trying to keep the other vehicles at a distance, and so I found myself, constantly checking the rearview mirror. Okay, why is that car so close? That sort of thing.
The vacation from war had been everything Lieutenant Colonel Williams hoped. He was home for Thanksgiving, ran in a marathon with his kids, and watched his oldest son become an Eagle Scout. But now, it was over.
I love you too, baby.
There was no good way to say goodbye to his wife, Christy.
It was bittersweet. You know, it's always hard to say goodbye to your loved ones, to your family, but we're past the halfway point with this mission. So Christy and I were telling the children the only way for Dad to get home is to go back to Afghanistan. So in a way, this is the beginning of the end.
Please hold on. This train is departing.
The trip takes days. First, it's a 14-hour flight to Kuwait with a stopover in Shannon, Ireland. The military has chartered this jet. It's the last time during their deployment that the troops will travel in the comfort of a commercial aircraft. The highest-ranking officers, including Lieutenant Colonel Williams, sit in first class. Everyone else rides coach.
You just have to endure it. It's never pleasant. Just try to get some rest when you can. Find a way to occupy yourself. We've got a long trip.
It makes me feel sad. I hate having to take these guys over there.
The flight attendants make this trip all the time. For 2 years, military charters are the only flights Stephanie Michelle has worked. It's nearly impossible for her to do the job and not think about where her passengers are going.
I just try to give them the best service I can and give them whatever they want. You want another Coke, you want another meal, whatever you want, because I know what they're going into. Sometimes I think we're a little bit numb to it too. You don't really think about exactly what they're going over there to do. You know they're going over, but you're really not picturing what they're going to do. It's hard. It's hard.
The first leg of the trip ends at a coalition airfield in Kuwait. It's early a.m. None of the troops have had good sleep in at least 24 hours, and they still have to find their bags, then their sleep tents.
I think everyone right now is just exhausted. They just want to find their stuff, find their tent, go to bed. Everyone's exhausted.
It's a 3-day wait until Lieutenant Colonel Williams gets on a C-17 into Afghanistan. The plane is packed, there's no legroom, and passengers must wear earplugs to protect against engine noise. The quietest and perhaps most comfortable spot on the plane might be Andy Bauman's chair in the cockpit.
There's going to be no flight attendants serving them any meals, no being able to just get up and linger around. It's a military airplane. It's designed to move people and to move the cargo and get it there as quickly and efficiently as possible. So a lot of the comforts are gone.
The 4-hour flight takes them over the Iranian coast, across Pakistan, and into Bagram Airfield in northern Afghanistan. It's the final checkpoint before Camp Phoenix and the place where troops get their weapons and body armor. From this point, the troops cannot travel anywhere without helmet and bulletproof vest.
It's a reality check that we're back into a theater of hostile operations. It's a combat zone.
But it's also a place that Lieutenant Colonel Williams knows, where he has friends, and where he has to finish the job that will get him home for good.
I'm actually relieved to be back in Afghanistan. If I can't be home, I might as well be with my fellow soldiers at Camp Phoenix, and I'm looking forward to getting there. It's not like going home, but the way I feel right now, it's the next best thing.
Camp Phoenix sits on what used to be a junkyard, 5 miles outside Afghanistan's capital city of Kabul. The road that leads in and out of camp is Jalalabad Road, which some troops simply call J-Bad. From J-Bad Road, the entrance to Camp Phoenix isn't marked, but most of the locals know where it is. You can't approach the gate without meeting one of them. For 6 years, he's worked alongside U.S. troops, helping maintain security in the face of constant terrorist threats. His name is Jamal Dean, but no one at Camp Phoenix calls him that.
To me, it seems like he has a high respect for us as much as we do for him.
Sergeant Jimmy McCormick of Conway says among the troops, Jamal has attained movie star status, so he was given a Hollywood nickname, Rambo. He's a friend to any coalition troop he meets and downright scary to those who shouldn't be near the gate. He'll give you a verbal warning by loudspeaker if you come too close. Try anything else, and you get the red stick. If somebody tries to do something wrong, says Rambo, I just beat them with my stick.
Good friend.
Thank you.
He only knows a few words of English, but Rambo has become best friends with many troops, like Sergeant McCormick.
I can't really speak the language all that well, but I can understand what's being said sometimes. Rambo pretty much makes it happen out here, and we wouldn't be pretty much alive, wouldn't survive up here if it weren't for him.
He says he never takes a day off, often working 14 hours a day.
I love to work because I had years of troubles and problems. If I don't work, I feel upset. Even I get sick.
He says one day he wants to live in America, but Rambo isn't going anywhere yet. His passion is here at the Camp Phoenix front gate. If you want to get in, you'll have to get past him.
I'm with them till they are here. If they are not here, I might not be here too, but this is up to them.
Once you're past Rambo, you can find troops at Camp Phoenix from every branch of service, from every corner of America and the world. But the atmosphere is heavily South Carolinian. There are USC and Clemson flags and posters across camp, and the South Carolina state flag flies over the camp's main road. It's one of the biggest camps in the country, too big to learn without a tour guide. Specialist Samuel Owens from Irmo helped us learn the lay of the land.
And we're going to do just a little walking tour, and I'll come show you around. This is our front gate, actually. Leading out of Camp Phoenix and also leading in. Beyond this point, of course, is where all the people coming in, they're searched, all vehicles coming in and coming out, and you have to have your IBA, which is your vest with all the armor and everything on, and your Kevlar, your helmet, before you can go beyond this point out to the front gate. These over here, if you can see them, are clearing barrels. Once you come into Camp Phoenix, any weapons you have with ammunition in them, you have to put your weapons in here, clear, make sure they're completely, there's no ammo in it whatsoever, take all your magazines out. So it's just a safety precaution. This is the PX. It's also our MWR room, which is morale, welfare, and recreation. They have like ping pong table, pool tables, and stuff for you up there.
It's one of the main community gathering places at Camp Phoenix. Troops can unwind outside and share the joys of their family inside.
This is our baby wall. When any of the guys here at Camp Phoenix have a baby, and a lot of people around here are having babies while they're away, they'll take their pictures and put them up on the wall. A lot of guys go home for the birth, try to plan their leave for that, and they'll be there for the birth and stay for like the first week or two, and then they have to come back here.
But the main attraction of the PX is on the second floor. This is one place troops can escape the daily pressure of working in a combat zone. Sergeant Casey Beamer of Columbia depends on it.
Every night, play pool. Coming up here is definitely a vacation from everything. We can play pool and just relax. I can relax up here. Either that or I'm sleeping. I just like coming up here, I guess.
The PX game room is one of several features that make Phoenix different from most camps in the country. At some, troops don't even have dining facilities, let alone an entertainment center. Those who live here know they've got it pretty good. The living quarters are small, but they have air conditioning along with other comforts. Specialist Owens knows it could be worse.
And this is my room. Very small, but I mean, it's at least it's mine. We have a place we can actually come and just have time to ourselves. And we just definitely stay in touch back home via computer. So we do have internet here, so we can all at least keep in contact via email. However, we call this Lego Land. It's a bunch of connexes because they're just kind of all put together, and that's living quarters for like officers and some civilian contractors as well.
And reporters.
And reporters as well. You guys get the private rooms to yourself, so.
They're not that big.
No, they're very small. All right, this is the Camp Phoenix Recreation Fitness Center, basically the gym. Show you what we have in here. Actually, this is a very nice facility compared to some of them I've seen. So we're gonna go on the inside here and I'll take you on a little tour. It's just a good come in here, get away. You can run on the treadmills, watch some television while you're doing it. Try to spend as much time here as possible.
It is an escape. It is a way to kind of just drop everything you're doing and come in here, relieve stress, get a new perspective on what needs to be done, make a few notes, and start fresh in the morning.
Lieutenant Colonel Rob Spires of Lexington helps maintain military bases across Afghanistan. For him, the risk of traveling in a war zone is a regular part of life. This is where he clears his head. And he always has company. Other troops, weary from the daily stress of war. Brigadier General Bob Livingston of Lexington says it's a sad truth of where they are.
Well, they are certainly in a combat zone, so they face danger every day. We face danger from the IED threat, but especially the direct fire threat. The soldiers have performed very, very well. We've had some challenges, mainly in taking a mission that requires about 7,000 Armed Forces members and doing it with about 3,400. But we've had a great effect, both on the Army and the police. We have actual Army units that are becoming self-sufficient, and we have police units that are able to stand up in the Taliban, whereas the police were losing district centers earlier in the summer. They are holding district centers and inflicting some fairly heavy losses on the Taliban.
Our soldiers' main objective is to train the troops and officers of the Afghan National Army and Police. Progress has been made, but how far have we come, and how far is there to go? A young soldier from Lexington and a veteran officer from Columbia have plenty to say about that. They're in the middle of some of the most essential training exercises the Afghan troops will endure. They come from every province in Afghanistan, ranging from teens to grown men. Hundreds enter the program each week, though many will not successfully finish. There have been some who've taken their first paycheck, left, and not returned. The ones who stay and complete their training with the Afghan National Army, known as the ANA, are thrust into war against the Taliban
Every ANA you meet, they definitely want your help, and they want us to be out here, and they're excited when we help them out, and they're always asking us questions and stuff about little tactics things. So it's definitely very, very important. I'm really excited to be out here.
Second Lieutenant Joshua Standridge from Lexington is a mentor for the ANA's troops in training. Today, he's watching them practice basic battle tactics. A few miles away, Colonel Daniel West of Columbia is also working with Afghan troops. His have already completed basic training. Now they're working on graduated skills.
It's been a very positive mission. They've been very open-minded to the suggestions we have given them and provided them.
Colonel West and Lieutenant Standridge are at the heart of the 218th's primary mission. They are training the troops of the Afghan National Army to stand strong on their own against the Taliban and other enemy forces.
We've got to help them sustain what they've built, and we've got to continue to help them train and guide them in the right direction.
The guys are learning quickly. They're picking up things, and I've definitely seen progress in my area, so I feel it's going pretty well.
His positive thoughts are shared by many, including Sergeant Major John Long of Beaufort. He's in charge of the unit that's training Afghan troops at the Kabul Military Training Center.
They're proud people, they're fierce warriors, and you kind of get the impression in working with them day in and day out, once America and the other coalition forces leave, they'll do what they need to do to bring this country or keep this country at the level that we leave it.
But the Afghans are lacking in critical areas. Colonel West sees it every day.
Yeah, discipline is definitely an issue, not so much on the staff, but it is for a majority of the soldiers that come through, because a lot of them have never been out of their provinces. They're shell-shocked at what their environment they're into. We've been trying to get them focused on a little bit more attention to detail stuff that they should have already been focused on.
Those who work directly with the ANA say this young Army has problems with organization and leadership. Those are some of the main areas Lieutenant Standridge and Colonel West are trying to help with.
I think this is definitely, one of the most important missions out here. It's long-term building of their country and building up their Army so they can support themselves. So I'm pretty happy and pretty proud to be part of it.
One of the goals we set for ourselves before we hit Afghanistan was to make sure we leave here better than we found it. And we can honestly say if they pulled us out tomorrow, we've left it better than we found it.
Sergeant Ohm, I'm Guardian 36, LT Hillis.
Of course, there are other missions. Some have direct impact on the attacks that coalition forces face from outsiders.
Also, 3 rockets were headed toward Camp Eggers. They struck west of Eggers. They were shot from the area that we're going into, actually south.
Today, the soldiers are preparing for a humanitarian aid mission to the nearby village of Alakale. The town is thought to be the source of several rocket attacks on Camp Phoenix in recent months, but the soldiers began making regular trips there to give goods and services. With that, the attacks stopped.
We literally have to go in these communities and influence the elders, the local population, to be more friendly to coalition forces, whether they be the United States, Britain, France, Germany, any of the countries operating here.
Captain David Brooks of Shara organizes these missions. With cold weather approaching, they'll give away 185 blankets to the poorest residents in town. But the mission is neither simple nor safe. The trip to Alakale starts on J-Bad Road, where there is always threat of IEDs and suicide bombers. After a few minutes, the convoy turns onto a bumpy desert road. All around, there are hills and buildings from which an enemy could attack. But the soldiers arrive safely in town. Immediately, they are surrounded. The children are persistent, begging for whatever they can get from soldiers. If there are parents nearby, they never show themselves during the mission. The poverty has seemingly touched everything and everyone in town.
The ones you feel sorry for the most are, I guess, are the kids, because they're having to grow up in this.
It's very saddening. It makes you think of the worst place you can think of in America, and that would be like Hollywood to these people. You know, they've never had anything good.
It's going to probably be one of the biggest ways of, of winning the conflict. It's proven, we're not here to conquer or anything like that. We're here to help.
Sergeant Les Harbin of Eastover and Sergeant Richard Stafford of Bluffton form part of the security circle around the blankets. There are dozens of residents who want one, but the recipients have already been assigned by their village elders. This man was not among the chosen. For a moment, the situation is tense. The soldiers consider taking forceful action, but the man leaves before things escalate and the people of Alakale receive their blankets.
One.
Still, Sergeants Les Harbin and Richard Stafford keep a close eye on the crowd. The children are always trying to inch closer and get what they can, and there's no way to be sure that everyone is unarmed.
There's just so many of them. They'll crowd the truck, and then you're out of supplies. Then you're out of your own supplies, so we can't give them everything.
Hey, mama, come let us shot.
The kids are kept away, the blankets are given out, and the soldiers make it back to Camp Phoenix.
It's pretty good.
There were no attacks and no one was injured, but not all missions end that way for the 218th, and when people are hurt, this is where they come. It's the Troop Medical Clinic. Staff Sergeant Lucy Comstock of Manning is in charge.
We've actually received the most combat casualties here.
Most combat casualties here? In country?
In the country, right. We kind of help each other when it's a little tough and hard to handle.
The basic goals of her work here are the same as back home, but the similarities don't go much beyond that. Taking care of patients in a war zone requires a completely different approach. Is it harder? Is it more difficult to deal with?
Sometimes it is because it's your own soldiers. It's people that you're serving with, and especially if you know the person, it makes it even harder. We had a Air Force person get killed, and it was tough.
The TMC staff are supposed to be mentally prepared for things like that, but they're only human. They need each other for comfort when things are at their worst. It's hardly surprising that they've become best friends.
We're all a family here now, and we're all making it through it.
This is my platoon father right here.
What's up?
For the last, 3 years now?
Yeah, last 3 years.
Family is a common thread across Camp Phoenix. In such a faraway place, living in these life-changing circumstances, troops will do anything to feel a piece of home. A small group of soldiers has captured that feeling of home. If you step inside the Camp Phoenix Chapel during one of their gatherings, you might, if only for an hour, feel like you were at church back in South Carolina.
Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. It's getting louder. Testing. Okay, y'all tight. I need y'all to work that spacing out.
Captain Iris Dickerson of Rock Hill is one of the chaplains at Camp Phoenix. Her job has many responsibilities, but the one perhaps closest to her heart is leading the Camp Phoenix Gospel Choir.
You gotta take it up a half an octave. Okay, let me hear you keep changing. To me, they sound like angels. No one in the choir is perfect, and I'm not looking for a perfect sound. I'm more or less looking for a joyful noise. They put their best foot forward no matter what. They try very hard, And they listen. Most of the time they listen, and when we can get them to stop cutting up or distracting each other, we can work on the sound.
Somebody's off. I don't know who it is.
For Chaplain Dickerson, the beauty of guiding a choir at Camp Phoenix is that it doesn't feel like they're at Camp Phoenix. Take away the military fatigues during rehearsal, and you might forget you were in a war zone.
The choir members themselves feel like they're a part of a family or team, camaraderie, a taste of home. That's what it means. Most of them tell me, this reminds me of being at home on my choir at home, or just, being around people who love God no matter what.
When you do your key change, 1.
The choir performs every week during church services. They also put on special performances at Christmas and Easter. Sometimes the turnout is so big, there's not enough room in the chapel.
We've had up to about 190 people at a service. We praise the Lord no matter what. We don't let where we are hinder us from going to service.
Her singers are dedicated, often skipping meals to make rehearsal.
Sometimes they come in late, but they want to come to rehearsal so bad that they won't go eat, and I have to make them eat.
She knows why they're so eager to be at rehearsal. When you have a chance to escape the reality of a place like Afghanistan,
let me encourage you, it's gonna be all right.
That feeling can be worth whatever it takes.
It is. It's home. It's a taste of home away from home.
Faithful, faithful is our God.
America's troops aren't the only ones trying to find the comforts of home in Afghanistan. Spend even a few hours on base, and it's impossible not to notice all the different countries that are here. Canada, France, Sweden, Macedonia, Belgium. In all, there are 13 countries with a presence in Afghanistan. Specialist Owens shows us some countries even have their own corners of camp, like France.
And they're spread out over a couple of different camps. This is just one of the camps where they are. And then, of course, we're here, you walk into Romania. This is kind of where they stage every morning and stuff, and you walk through. Sometimes you can't get through because they have their troops out here. There's Dracula's castle. What I like is the coffin-shaped, I guess storage unit they have here on the side of their hut.
The troops from each country tend to stay among themselves, but different forces work together when the mission calls for it.
It's been interesting. It's been interesting for us working in the U.S. team. I've never done that before.
Nicholas is one of 2 Swedish troops serving with coalition forces at the Kabul Military Training Center. Because of his country's security policy, he says he can't give his last name. He also says his country doesn't support their troops like Americans do. When he returns home, he's not expecting a hero's welcome.
No, it's not the same in Sweden. Yeah, it's a big difference. But all Swedes who are here, we choose to be here. We have to apply for a certain service, and then we come here. It's different with the U.S. They get ordered to go here.
Lieutenant Colonel Francois Barthélemy of France says the people of his country also have, at best, a passing interest in what their troops are doing in Afghanistan.
The people in my country, I'm not sure they really know what we are doing here.
But that doesn't concern them. Both Nicholas and Francois agree Afghanistan is a worthy effort. They say they're happy to be here, helping the 218th train Afghan troops.
We are very proud to work with those guys to help them to become better soldiers.
I think it's great. I do a lot of good down here, and I feel like I'm helping the Afghan people, so I'm hoping to get back soon.
The reason I think that you have that commitment from the other countries is that you can see progress here, and not that you can't see progress other places, is that this Army really wants to protect this country, and you can see it day in and day out. The Afghan soldiers, the Afghan civilians, they're very glad that America and the other coalition forces are here.
Though each country usually works independently from others, there is one part of camp life they all share. From American troops to civilian contractors and higher-ranking officers, the dining facility is everyone's meeting place. So how is the food? Like anything else here, it all depends on perspective.
The food's pretty good. I mean, certainly you're away from home. It's certainly not your mama's cooking or your wife's cooking, but it's certainly a lot better than eating MRE all day.
We survive. It's better than MRE, so.
MRE is short for meal ready to eat. Most troops will tell you they try to avoid them at all cost, but in some bases throughout Afghanistan, an MRE is the only option. In that sense, Camp Phoenix is a culinary paradise.
You're not going to go hungry. Hopefully you can find something you like every day to eat.
Specialist Scott Whalen of Irmo says the food isn't always spectacular, but there are plenty of options. So much so, he's avoided eating vegetables for most of his tour.
Yeah, I've been eating a lot of junk food, so I need to start eating vegetables, actually.
The troops eat most of their meals in the dining facility, also known as the DFAC. There's a vegetable, salad, and hot food buffet line every day. There's also an American junk food line with onion rings and mini pizzas, and an ice cream bar.
It's not bad. It's not bad at all.
The main complaint by some at Camp Phoenix is that the food is on a predictable rotation. You can often tell what day it is by what's being served. But when troops are tired of eating the same thing, they still have other options. A few months ago, Pizza Hut opened at Camp Phoenix. There's also a Subway and Dairy Queen. They don't taste the same as back home, but considering the circumstances, the troops will take it.
And here I am. I never would think that I would be talking about those sorts of things while being in a combat zone. But again, those things tend to help build morale, especially when you don't necessarily think that the chow hall or the mess hall food is worth anything. You want to just take a stroll down to Pizza Hut, grab a pizza, and you say, wow, at least I got some semblance of being at home.
Kind of nice, and get a little variety in the food, which is kind of a plus. I was thinking the other day when I was coming back to work and I was drinking a smoothie, I was thinking it's a little surreal, walking back to work drinking a smoothie. But it's those little things that make this kind of a lot more bearable.
At Camp Phoenix, the little things can mean everything. That's especially true during times when troops are most likely to be homesick. And because only a few can go home during the holidays, Christmas at Phoenix is a time many troops will need something to make them smile. In this part of Afghanistan, there's just enough snow in December to create a Christmas feel. At Phoenix, some people add to it by putting up lights or inflatable Santas. Others turn on holiday music.
Grandma got run over by a reindeer.
A few do a bit of everything.
This is the Mac Daddy setup here, and this is our fireplace. It's just like home. I don't think we're doing too bad right now. We're having some competitions between the offices. The office joining ours, they say they're beating us. So we had to up the ante, and we're waiting for more stuff, more secret supplies to come from home.
Lieutenant Beth Talent of Charleston engaged her office in a battle of decorations with the office next door. They transformed their Phoenix Operations Command Center into a Christmas lights showcase.
There's competition out there, and we're just going to try to stay above it. And this is the police section. So they got one tree, and they've got their lights and some garlands. So I don't think that's cutting it.
For Lieutenant Talent, the competition is as much about celebrating the season as it is dealing with the absence of family. No matter how much she decorates, there's no escaping the empty feeling that comes from spending Christmas at war.
You put your family thoughts on back burner a little bit. We said it's probably going to be like some of our other holidays where you get through it and it's good and it's bad all at the same time. It just depends on how much you dwell on it.
It'll probably be a little depressing not waking up to see your family eating breakfast with everybody, but it's going to be pretty nice to come into work and just hang out with everybody, and hopefully it'll be a pretty good day.
This is flexible.
The difficulty of being away from home is compounded for people like Lieutenant Talent, people who have children and can't be there to open presents with them under the tree. Beth has had to leave it to her husband to negotiate the challenges of shopping for their teenage daughter.
My husband has a new appreciation for the mall. Most of it is still, Abercrombie and Fitch and going to the mall, and I want to go to the Gap.
All she can do is shop online and make sure it's in the mail on time. No amount of decorations can erase the fact that Lieutenant Talent can't be there to give that present in person. That's why she prefers to think about how good next Christmas will be and not how lonely this one is.
Next year will be a lot better, won't it?
Yes, a lot. Yeah, it's just, and you'll know, you'll have a richer appreciation for the things that you have at your fingertips, night and day, the things you don't have to worry about.
Right, that's the movie. Yeah. When he starts being filmed.
First off, I say thank you to the people of South Carolina for the great support we've gotten from the state and the great support that our families have gotten. The families have been wonderful, as have the citizens of South Carolina.
General Bob Livingston's 218th has been away from home for 1 year. They've made progress, but it has come at the cost of soldiers' lives.
He's like the best E6 ever.
Yeah.
Besides
these two.
They've made special friendships, but they look forward to leaving each other for the comfort of home. Captain Stanley Myers says it is an odd mix of emotions.
You really appreciate the friends that you make in a combat zone, but when it's time to go, you are certainly more than happy to get out of here. But while you're here, you endure it, you put up with the guys, you put up with whatever you have to, and you're happy to basically meet the individuals that you do.
The soldiers of the 218th have given up more than most can understand. Birthday parties, holidays, the birth of their children. Major Tim Ellis has made a sacrifice many military families can relate to.
For this whole train up and the deployment, I'll miss a year and a half of school. So I've already missed. Fortunately, I was able to see my son's football season last year, but I'll miss a whole football season. I'll miss my daughter's taekwondo tournaments. Campouts with my son, so that makes it a little harder.
It makes you appreciate things a lot more back home, and especially even here on Camp Phoenix. I mean, what you're seeing is kind of, we have things very small and things are not elaborate like they are back home, but compared to how these people live outside the gates here, I mean, this is paradise. We're all definitely looking forward for this next 5 months to go by pretty quick, and so we can come back home, because trust me, this is nothing like South Carolina, so it's about as far as you can get. But thank you, everybody. We appreciate it. Thank you so much for your support, and we look forward to seeing you in 5 months.
And we look forward to being here for the official homecoming of South Carolina's 218th. They're more than halfway done with their mission now, only a few months to go. We understand it's been an extremely difficult year for many of South Carolina's military families, but hopefully over this past hour, we've helped you feel a connection with our soldiers in Afghanistan. Just remember, our friends, neighbors, and family are coming home soon. I'm Will Frampton. On behalf of all of us at News 19, thanks for joining us for Stories from the 218th.